What can OCD look like in dating before things become serious? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie Yates Anya, Steph Anya for short, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today, I'm going to be sharing about the difference between relationship anxiety and relationship OCD. If you're curious, stay tuned. What's on your mind? I put up a post asking you all what videos you would like to see the most, and I've been going in order of the most liked comments. Thank you again for all of the wonderful suggestions. And this was one that was actually really surprising to me, which is the question about OCD and relationships. This person's question originally, I read it as them trying to avoid being in relationships with people with OCD. And he went on to share that he was talking about his own experiences with OCD, possibly in relationships. And a lot of people validated that experience and said that they've been in the same position. So I thought it'd be a great video to share so that you all can understand the difference between experiencing relationship anxiety, which can be pretty standard, and relationship OCD. So first, let's talk about what OCD in general is. So OCD is both a diagnosis as well as a classification of diagnoses that describes intrusive thoughts, obsessive behaviors, and compulsions. So I'll share with you at a high level what it would look like for you to receive a diagnosis of obsessive compulsive disorder. The presence of obsessions, which are unwanted intrusive thoughts or images that are experienced repeatedly and bring about distress, or the compulsions, which are repetitive ritualized actions that the individual feels compelled to perform in order to alleviate the distress caused by the obsessions. The repetitive rituals are unconnected to the obsessions they are attempting to counteract or are excessive in their application. For instance, repeatedly checking and rechecking that a door is indeed locked when one confirmation would suffice. Obsessions and or compulsions endure, lasting at least an hour a day. So that is our general obsessive compulsive disorder diagnosis. Within this classification, there are a lot of subsets of this diagnosis that we see. Body dysmorphic disorder, hoarding disorder, trichotillomania, which is hair pulling, excoriation, which is skin picking. So these are all subsets of an obsessive compulsive disorder. So relationship OCD is not an officially recognized diagnosis in the DSM, but because it's become something so recognized in the field, it got to the point where without the proper language to articulate the type of OCD you're dealing with, the treatment for that diagnosis would be very difficult to manage because your standard presentation of OCD might be missed if it's relationship OCD. So what is relationship OCD? So just like we talked about with obsessive compulsive disorder, it is characterized by ongoing intrusive thoughts and compulsive behavior related to close personal relationships. And you may ask, well, I have a lot of questions about my relationship. What's the difference between just being anxious about my relationship and having obsessive compulsive disorder when it comes to dealing with my relationship? And these are some of the qualifiers that make them a bit different. These intrusive thoughts take up to an hour or more per day of your time. They cause significant distress, maybe both personal distress and definitely stress within your relationship. And they interfere with your ability to show up for life. So we see work being affected, your social life, of course, your relationship with your partner, all of those things being impacted. So when you're dealing with general relationship anxiety, you're typically talking about maybe questions about the future with your partner. Maybe you're developing some nerves around being vulnerable with your partner, sharing things about your past. Maybe you have some worries about if they'll want to stay with you and be with you, but it's not overshadowing the relationship. It's not getting in the way of the relationship progressing forward. I've seen clients both with relationship OCD, and I've actually had a larger population of clients who are in relationships with people with relationship OCD, where I am not seeing the partner with the diagnosis, but the partner who is dating the person or married to the person with the diagnosis. And so what we see often is that the relationship is kind of stifled from moving forward because of all of the questions that come with relationship OCD. So let's talk about the cycle that happens. You have the obsession, which might be a question like, why am I not completely happy in my relationship every day, like I see with my friend or my sibling? Then we move to the distress portion of the cycle. Since your relationship is such a key factor in your life, those doubts, those fears can become destabilizing. They can also become paralyzing, feeling so emotionally unstable as a result of the distress of those obsessions. Then we move into the compulsion. The compulsion is the behavior where you're doing something to address those obsessions in the sense of distress. So constantly asking their partner, should we be together? Maybe there's saying, let's take a break, let's get back together, let's take a break, let's get back together. The most common example of this is repeatedly asking your partner for reassurance that they're in love. So your partner is constantly having to get creative to figure out how to reassure you. And then once your partner does find those magic words or does that thing that soothes you like a balm, we move into the temporary relief stage of the cycle. This is like a dopamine hit. This puts you in a position of feeling happy and secure in the relationship, but typically it does not last very long. And then we're right back at that obsession stage of the cycle. If you think that you may be dealing with relationship OCD and you need some support, I'm really happy to be able to provide you all with a resource. OCD is a virtual therapy partner. It's an app that provides you with information about OCD as well as provides you with the way to get connected with clinicians virtually for OCD treatment. Their services are typically covered by insurance. So NoCD's mission is to bring accessible and affordable care to anyone who needs it. What I love about NoCD is that it was created by people with OCD as well as experts at treating OCD. All of their therapists have been trained in ERP, which is exposure and response prevention therapy, which is a type of cognitive behavioral therapy that is very effective for OCD. You're able to interact with your therapist even in between sessions. And what I really love is that you're able to also connect with a community of others who have OCD as well to prevent the feeling of isolation and loneliness that can come with an OCD diagnosis. NoCD's mission is not only to help support OCD, but also to bring awareness around what OCD is. We see so many misportrayals and misconceptions in the media about OCD. If you or a loved one are wanting to address the core problems that contribute to OCD behaviors, please check out the link here at the bottom of the screen as well as in the description box. Thanks again to NoCD for partnering with me today to both bring awareness to OCD as well as OCD treatment. So I also want to provide some tips for those of you who may be in a relationship with someone who has relationship OCD. Please remember, your partner does not want to keep thinking about these things. They would love nothing more than for these to be a quick thought or not a thought at all, and for you all to just be able to move on with your day. But that's the thing about OCD, is that a lot of the thoughts they're having are actually counter to their actual beliefs or feelings or values. And that's why the thought is intrusive, because if they could choose to have that thought or not, they would not choose to continue ruminating about those thoughts. The question being, how do you identify that before things get serious? A lot of times these tendencies are kind of obvious in the beginning of a relationship, but we ignore them as a person just needing assurance. Now, most people need assurance and reassurance in a relationship. So it's not that it's just bad to need that assurance, but it's very important to pay attention to how well received your reassurance is. So if a person is asking you, do you like me today? Do you love me? And you say yes, and like there's nothing that you can really do to comfort them, or the question comes up so many times, especially in those earlier stages where you're still trying to figure out how you feel about the relationship, that might be a sign that they may be dealing with relationship OCD, but that's not guaranteed. A lot of the questions that I get from clients as partners are, what can I do to better support my partner? First, you want to be able to recognize what an obsession looks like. So some of the questions that a person with relationship OCD may constantly ask are, what if there's a better match for me out there? Which can be very hard for my clients to hear because it feels like a direct attack on them. It feels like their partner does not want to be with them, when in actuality, they are struggling with something that is so beyond that person and that relationship. What if I don't actually love my partner? What if I'm not attracted to my partner? So remember that these questions are not usually questions that say, I am not attractive. It's the what if. It's the hypothetical questions that typically become obsessions. So even though it's very difficult, you don't want to interpret these things as your partner critiquing you, because a lot of times it's really just questions about them in general. And if they were with another person, those same questions would probably be reaching the surface. So I do want to remind you that it is not your job to stay in a relationship that might be unhealthy for your mental health. But what I've seen with my clients is that for the most part, the person they're talking to me about, they believe that they are the one. They feel like this is my person. I don't want to not be in a relationship with them, but I don't know how to manage these moments where they have all of these questions about our relationship that I am not feeling. It's also important to recognize what some of the compulsions look like in relationship OCD. So some of the most common ones are reassurance seeking. So they might I ask a lot about what you think about the relationship, what you think about them, also mentally checking and reviewing. So it could be a question about when a date is coming up, for example, to keep asking about that date, even if the information is on their calendar, for example, and they still are having a hard time with being fearful about if they're going to forget about it or if they have the right restaurant. That's something that I've seen with clients. Analyzing behavior. So if they're looking at you and you're not looking at them in that moment, and they might become obsessed with why you never look at them and over analyzing simple things that might be coming up in your day. And ruminating, of course. So these thoughts don't just come up, they are fixated in their mind and they're thinking about them throughout the day. And what can you do in those situations? It's very difficult, but you want to avoid fueling the compulsions. It's very challenging, but something I work with when I have couples and one of the partners has relationship OCD is helping them both understand that your partner providing the reassurance in those situations is actually enabling the cycle with OCD. So you want to help support them through the uncertainty. So if your partner, for example, is saying, are we going to get married one day? It's tempting to say, of course we're going to get married. I want to be married to you, which might provide that temporary relief and lead back to the obsession. It might be the same question. It might be, okay, well, when are we getting married? Why aren't we getting married yet, for example? And it might be more just about sitting in that uncertainty, saying, we still have so much to figure out. What can I do to support you through this uncertainty? And of course, directing them toward their professional help if they have a therapist or provider that might be able to really sit with them in that uncertainty. If you're dealing with this in your relationship, I encourage really both partners to have an individual therapist, as well as a couples therapist can be useful as well, because it can get very challenging to manage all of these conversations on your own just as a couple, because you as the partner might feel offended, very frustrated with what's happening in the relationship. And please remember that your partner is feeling the exact same way. So if you have a partner who is dealing with OCD, they are feeling overwhelmed with these thoughts, and it's not a happy place for them to be either. So I hope that answers your questions about what OCD can look like in relationships, how it can affect relationships, and most importantly, what to do about it, who to go to about it, the type of treatment that's the most effective for it. Again, I appreciate you all for the questions that you sent me. These have been wonderful videos that I really wouldn't have thought of doing, that hopefully can be helpful to others who might be dealing with similar issues. I'll do another one of these posts soon asking you all about the videos that you want to see. And if you have requests, you feel free to put them in the comments. And again, I look at the number of likes for a lot of these comments to get an idea about how many people are interested in this type of content. So thank you all so much for watching this video. I ask that you subscribe to my channel, like this video. Thanks again to NoCD for partnering with me today to both bring awareness to OCD as well as OCD treatment. I have their link in my description box. Thank you for watching this video all the way until the end. You didn't have to do that, but the fact that you did helps me out so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.